My loves, I am so happy and so pleased to announce that this episode is brought to you by my very own company, Savage Chocolates, which is all about cultivating a more loving relationship to your body and to food. You know, we don't really believe in guilty pleasure. We just believe in pleasure done well. Right? Have you ever had that candy bar or thing of ice cream and you eat it and you're like, wait, I don't remember eating that. Wait, where'd that go? Well, that's why I created Savage Chocolates, because I know the importance of pleasure. And I think that we don't slow down enough to actually experience it. And so if you are wanting to eat mindfully, if you are wanting to be reminded of how to actually experience your pleasure, then please go to www.savagelosangeles.com to order your goods. All right, you guys, let's get to it. Well, hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
What a gift to be able to talk to you today and just kind of hear about what you're creating in the world. Can you, for people who are new to you and your work, can you give us just a little elevator moment of what you do and who you are?
Sure. So I am an acupuncturist in private practice. My name is Christine DeLozier. I specialize in sexual health. So I treat patients looking to have better sex. And I've been doing that for quite some time, but I decided to bring my other passion into my practice, which is nutrition and diet. So what I do with my patients is I talk to them about what they eat. I talk to them about what they could be eating to support their treatment goals. And so, having a background in science, I did train to be a research scientist. I didn't pursue a career in that, but I'm very familiar with research and comfortable with it. So what I decided to do was take a look at what the medical literature had to say about this issue. How much evidence was there to support that what we eat affects, our sexual function? And then how should we be eating? What's the best way to eat to have the best sex? And so I spent countless hours reviewing clinical and epidemiological research to come up with the best diet for great sex. And I found that the answer to whether or not what we eat affects sex is a very, very strong yes. Absolutely, it has a profound effect on sexual pleasure because, when we think about great sex, we think of a psychological phenomenon, where it's the right person, it's the right mood and in the right situation. But physiologically, great sex is when our nerves are firing strong, rapid impulses to and from the genitals. It's when our blood vessels are delivering adequate blood flow. And it's when our sex hormones are balanced. And food can affect this both in the short term and in the long run. I mean, in the short term, what you eat can dump your testosterone, very quickly within an hour or two after eating, or conversely, what you eat can actually improve blood flow within a couple hours. I mean, granted, obviously, when you eat consistently well, long-term, you're going to have the best sex, but you can get some changes even right after a meal.
Wow. That is so incredible. And, it's like these things that are integrated into our everyday experience, like food and hopefully like sex. It's like they're so, so important. And yet so many of us are so disconnected from both how we actually nourish ourselves. And I think also in this time and space where we're actually in some ways more connected than ever, we're completely starved for actual intimacy. I would love to know, I ask all of my guests this because I do firmly believe that we kind of take our mess and we turn it into our message. And so I would love to know about why you got into this. What was your catalyst for learning more about nutrition, acupuncture, and sexual health?
Sure. So I actually was a school counselor for 10 years but my passion was in alternative medicine. And, I would ask my students when I was kind of trying to guide them, to their career path, I'd say, what are you passionate about? What do you find yourself doing when nobody's telling you to do something, when you're not, when nobody's saying do your homework? What are you doing on your free time? And for me, it was immersing myself in, every piece of information about alternative medicine that I could get my hands on, just because I have this intrinsic motivation to learn about health from the most natural way possible. I love Mother Nature. I love I love being outside. I love and so I brought that into my philosophy for health, which is that Mother Nature usually knows best. And the closer we stick to how nature intended for us to eat, the better we're going to experience pleasure, the better we're going to experience life, so health, everything. And that's where I got to be there. As far as sexual health, I was in my private practice and I was treating what most acupuncturists treat, a lot of back pain, a lot of neck pain, headaches, things like that. And one day, one of my patients came in and asked me if I could help him to have stronger erections. And so I said, sure, yeah, we can give it a go. It's something obviously we train for in school, but it's not something we typically treat a lot of. We treat fertility a lot more often than people actually ask us for help with that. So I told him where I was going to be needling him, thinking, oh no, this is going to just sound so strange to him. I mean, I needled my patients in the perineum, which is it's a very intimate area. It's between the anus and testicles or vagina. And I suggested this to him thinking, oh my God, he's going to think I'm this pervert, and, but he was like, yeah, sure. No problem.
So Go off. Hats
he
off
was
to
my
him.
first one. Yeah. So, he got great results. He was so happy the next time I saw him, and his wife had, it really brought joy to their relationship, and it helped them to connect more. It made me so happy to hear that, especially because that's something that's really hard to treat. We spend a lot of money, we spend a lot of focus on, pills and all sorts of things to do this. And the fact that it could help was really impressive. So then I treated other patients who also got really good results. And I said, you know what, this is something that really has the potential to help people, to really bring joy to their lives. And so I decided to specialize in it.
That's so fantastic. And when I think about the intersection of bringing joy, and also I can't even imagine too, people who come to you with trauma and people who come to you with so much restriction and resistance, I'm sure that's so potent and powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Because sex can be one of the most wonderful experiences in our lives. It can bring so much to the human experience. And when we have, when we have history of trauma, it just completely, it's so present in our intimate relationships and experiences with our partner that, the ability to work through those and fully enjoy sex is such a beautiful thing.
So for men and for women, do you find that there are many overlaps in types of food that we should be eating to increase our sexual health, or how does that work? Are they totally separate?
No, it's pretty much the same. The same. All the literature out there is the same. We want great blood flow. We want strong, rapid nerve impulses, and we want balanced sex hormones. The eating isn't different between male and female sexual health. The hormonal balance is different. For great sex, males tend to do better with higher testosterone and lower estrogen, although estrogen is very important as well. And for females, it's the opposite. We do better with higher estrogen and lower testosterone. But again, plenty of females take testosterone supplements to boost their libido. So it's as important as well. But eating well for that is the same. We want to balance those sex hormones. Our diet very much affects that. It affects that whole entire trifecta of great sex. And so we can go on, we and our partner who may be of a different sex than us can go on the same diet and both be having better sex.
Okay. So if we were all to magically get our kitchen stocked full with one thing that everyone should start eating, just like Vini Vini Vici, go, what would it be, if anything?
Okay. So, let me tell you a little story.
Tell me everything.
Okay. So, human beings, we're in so many ways, we have so many pathetic aspects to the way we behave. I mean, every single other animal on earth that's not domesticated knows what they should eat.
Right.
They know what's healthy. They know what's best. They choose this plant over this plant because they just know. Human beings, we've lost our way. We don't know what's best for us, and we have it's so far off the mark that, one of us eats one thing and the other person eats just the opposite. And, to be healthy. So one of the things I wanted to do in writing the book was look at other primates. How do other primates eat? Because they are our cousins. What do they eat in the wild? And maybe that'll give us a little bit of, some guidance. But in addition, I did look at lots of human beings as well. But primates, if you look at them, they're constantly eating leaves and fruit. They sit in trees, they eat loads and loads of leaves. And in doing so, they get many times the amount of certain minerals in their diet, and certainly potassium. So the absolute best thing that you could possibly stock your fridge with would be leaves of any sort, whether it's romaine lettuce or spinach, green leaf, kale, cilantro, parsley. All of these green leaves have all these phytonutrients that keep our inflammation low. They protect our nerves and our blood vessels so that our blood vessels remain elastic and able to deliver adequate blood flow. It keeps our nerves firing strong, rapid impulses. And in our modern society, we're exposed to all sorts of things that damage our nerves. They cause oxidative stress, from the air we breathe to the food we eat to our stress, our lifestyle, our lack of exercise, so much processed foods that we put in our body. So leaves have lots of phytonutrients and antioxidants, which will keep your nerves firing strongly and will actually speed up. They'll make them the most. They'll bring optimal nerve conduction, if you will.
Okay, so leaves, everybody go out and get your arugula, go out and get your romaine. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. And then you did mention fruit as well. So is fruit all the rage as well for sexual health? Is there like any specific fruit that you're like, wham, bam, that's the one?
Yeah, well, no, I'm like in love with all of them. I like how they look. I like how, I like the visual, the aesthetic, the taste, everything. I mean, fruit is rather magical. Berries are really great because they bring so much to the table. They're a low glycemic fruit, so even people who are dealing with diabetes can eat them. Mostly, some may not. Tons of antioxidants, which again, one of the best things you can put in your body. And they have these things called polyphenols, which is a type of antioxidant, which actually improves blood flow within a couple hours of eating it. I mean, the magnitude, it's not like taking a Viagra pill or something. It's more like a subtle improvement.
Sure.
In blood flow. Those are great. Another thing though, as far as fruits that I really like are oranges. And oranges are cool because they have a lot of potassium in them. And potassium is one of those things that we sorely neglect in our diets. So human beings used to take in about 10 times as much potassium in our diets as sodium. Now we take in about 10 times as much sodium as potassium.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And the thing about it is all this sodium actually sabotages our potassium even further. So it's wreaking havoc on our blood vessels and definitely making for worse sex.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. And then so I know that you are amazing with Chinese medicine and acupuncture and all of these things. As far as for people who maybe don't have the time or the money to go out to an acupuncturist and maybe be treated, are there any practices with, say, acupressure or with breath work or anything of that nature that people can do at home to just start right away at, increasing their blood flow, getting, I don't know, just all the tools that they need to actually help with their sex life? Sure.
Yeah. So, the purpose of acupuncture is to move the qi. The basic premise of Chinese medicine is that when qi is blocked or deficient, we have disease. or we have pain. When qi flows abundantly and freely, we have health. So acupuncture moves qi along where it's blocked. And those blockages can come from all sorts of things. We can get plaque accumulation in our arteries, which blocks the qi. We can have stress, which blocks the qi. All sorts of things can block the qi, our lifestyles. And we when we say the qi is blocked, it's not a metaphor. It's an actual physical, phenomenon. The qi is truly blocked. And
sure.
So there are lots of other things that move the qi as well. Exercise is something that really moves the qi and helps keep the qi flowing. So that's something that people can do at home. As far as, acupressure points, if you even doing a massage kind of moves things along the meridians to a certain degree. But I would say your best bet to move the qi, if you're not going to get acupuncture or something like that, is meditating, exercise, and eating foods that don't block the qi. So that McDonald's, that's like probably one of the worst, qi blocking foods that you can eat, because it's loaded with fat. Depending on what you're eating, it may be loaded with sugar, and all of those things are going to slow the qi.
Totally. Okay. So cheeseburgers equals block qi.
Yes.
Potentially. What do you find? So of course, obvious things like McDonald's, but are there any kind of unobvious foods that we're ingesting that block qi or get in the way in some way?
Yeah. Let me just say a little bit about the most obvious ones: high fat, high salt, high sugar. Those block the qi, especially like in, refined sugars. So in the sense that they're less obvious, a lot of times they come disguised as healthy foods, like granola bars or bars in general, as these products that, you'd be way better off shopping in the produce aisle and getting something that actually truly nourishes the body.
Yeah.
As far as things that you might not expect that you wouldn't want to eat, most of them are pretty obvious. Processed foods. Processed foods, they're going to load in salt, sugar, fat. So it's, staying closer to nature again is just the general guideline that'll, move us towards health.
And when you say fats, are you talking also about, what we would call quote unquote healthy fats, like nuts and avocados, or those are cool? Those are fine.
Oh, definitely. I would say those are good to have in the diet. You can potentially overdo it on those, because even the healthy fats can cause weight gain. They can cause blockages as well. But they're the sort of thing we want in our diets. They're good for us. Have a handful or two of nuts every single day. Great. Have a half of avocado every single day. Great. If you're having that, plus you're also loading up on cheeseburgers and other fats, and your total fat is still really high, then you might want to be concerned.
Then we're in trouble. Got it. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I love it. So random question, but I'm like a total foodie queen. So I actually own a chocolate company, but it's a vegan, sustainable paleo. So it's made with coconut sugar, vegan, all the things, chocolate brand. And our whole thing is about conscious pleasure. Because I do find that in our culture, we have this relationship to pleasure that's like super busted. Like it's like, okay, if you're going to have this thing, like eat it quick. So you like, don't even process that you're having it, or, if you're going to have this experience, like you better be drunk to have it, because like, it's kind of sketchy. Like, versus going to other cultures. Like if you go to France or something and you're sitting down for a 4-hour lunch, and it's like, you're eating so mindfully and with that essence of pleasure. So I really appreciate all the things you're saying, because I think the volume has really been turned down on pleasure, and, turning that volume up is, I think, what's going to be so freeing for many of us. I would love to hear your take on pleasure, on conscious pleasure, and why that's so important.
Okay, so my mind is going in so many different directions. I just so many bulbs got lit up by what you were saying.
Love it.
It's pleasure is, pleasure in food is so important. And it's like, especially with this whole concept of diet culture, and that you're supposed to beat your body into submission to get into this certain size that you think looks good. And it's not even about health necessarily. It's about like, conformity, it's about like depriving yourself of pleasure, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And
totally.
I feel like no matter what kind of diet plan you're on, and I don't say like diet meaning like weight loss program, I just mean diet in general, whatever program you're following, it should include pleasure in food.
It's you, girl.
Yes. And the thing about it is, though, this is the tricky part. The really tricky part is this: when our society presents us with these really high fat, high sugar options, and it actually changes our body chemistry. It changes how we register pleasure. So what it does is it actually, the more really high fat, high sugar we eat, what it does is our body won't release as much dopamine. So it's like it changes our body so that we then require more sugar and fat to trigger that pleasure response, that dopamine rush. So, but what you can do is you can train your body to, it's like, if you change your eating habits, you will register very much pleasure with simpler things, like fruits and vegetables. You open up a thing of berries, they look beautiful. They're that beautiful red. You pop them in their mouth, they're juicy, and it'll definitely shoot up your dopamine, but not when we're so tied to all these processed foods. It just, and it takes a couple weeks to rewire your brain and rewire your kind of dopamine response.
That totally makes sense. It's like, it's hard to find the pleasure of a blueberry when you're used to sweet tarts. It's like, it just isn't, it doesn't give you that like zing of a dopamine rush. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, something like chocolate is such a beautiful, beautiful food. It brings me so much pleasure. I'm such a chocolate.
I got to send you some.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yes.
Be my pleasure.
I would love that. Yes. And, and it's high in magnesium too. Which is, I don't know if you knew that,
I didn't.
Chocolate and stuff, but yeah, it's actually very high in magnesium, surprisingly high in magnesium. My theory is that that's why more women kind of crave chocolate, is because, we lose blood with the menses, and, we just are kind of looking for more magnesium.
That makes sense, actually. And it's kind of, it has that, it's like so I take that calm tea stuff. I don't know if you've had that, but every once in a while, if I'm, just wanting like a cozy moment, and that's high in magnesium, and it does kind of add that sense of like, it's like an exhale. And I think, I think chocolate's like an exhale.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. What do you think is the biggest obstacle emotionally to us experiencing our own pleasure, if there is kind of a general thing that you think about?
Honestly, I think in so many ways we've lost humility. And so I just feel like our culture kind of pushes us into that. We push instead like feeling good about ourselves, self-esteem, feeling confident, and also being independent. And those can all be really good things, but being interconnected and being reliant on one another is also a good thing. And the direction that we've kind of gone in with emphasizing the self so much can also kind of be this self-obsession and, kind of selfishness. I feel like we're one of the most selfish cultures in the world, where we live now. And I think that when you want to experience the most powerful, passionate lovemaking, it's with an emphasis on your partner as well as yourself, and, bringing that kindness and moving beyond our own pleasure, moving beyond our experience, and viewing our partner as an equal in that in that whole thing.
Yes. Yeah. I find, I'd love for your feedback on this when the intention is to connect with the other person and to also like offer pleasure to the other person rather than what can I get? I've been with partners that it's all about like, what can I get?
Yes.
And it's like, I can feel it vibrationally. I can feel it energetically. And it's just like, ugh, I feel slimed.
Yeah, right.
It's like, so not it. How can we maybe have that conversation or maybe shift that paradigm or kind of, I don't know, change our thinking around that or dump the chump? I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with ourselves. So often we look for partners who are kind and we forget to ask ourselves if we are kind, because being a kind person also attracts that same thing, that reciprocity. I would say starting with ourselves. And also the problem this does bring up an issue. And that is that, women have always been the givers, sexually they've been the givers, and focus has always been historically on male pleasure. So how can we bring this, selfless, thoughtful kindness and wanting to care for our partner to our relationships while also acknowledging that historically we haven't been cared for, the focus has been on the other person. So I think it's kind of a tightrope to walk, because in advocating for ourselves, we can sometimes lose sight of the fact that we also want to be, kind lovers as well, so I think we need to think about both of those things, being a kind lover and also being a feminist, at the same time. And also looking for people, who view things the same way.
Beautiful. Okay. So now talk to me a bit about your book. Talk to me about why you wrote it, why now, and all the things. Tell me everything.
Sure. So first I want to say this. I hope that I've achieved this. What I set out to do was to write a book that would be smart, funny, and provide a ton of really useful information. Cool. I wanted everything to be really well researched, but I wanted it to be accessible and fun to read. So I hope I've achieved that. I decided to write it because I didn't think there was anything else out there like that. And I didn't necessarily see the need for another book on, diet, but a diet focusing on sex, I thought would be really fun to write. And it would provide exactly what, all the stuff that I tell my patients and that I can't possibly fit into an hour session, I would put all in this book, so like, oh yes, I read this study saying, this, but on the other hand, there's this, there's very complex, idea of what we should be eating for great sex, and backed by all the science that says, okay, it's actually proven in clinically that this is good for you and how this works. So that's the majority of the book is talking about food and sex. I also talked about environmental things that can interfere with sex. We've rolled out 5G and there's a lot of controversy over whether or not this is bad for health.
Right.
And the thing about it is, as I looked at the research, I thought, why is there this controversy? There's tons and tons of evidence showing that, Wi-Fi does disrupt hormones. It's very clear in the research that it does. Wow. So our exposure to Wi-Fi and EMFs definitely can disrupt hormones. There's tons and tons of research to back that up.
Is there anything we can do for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, antioxidants are the thing that comes first to mind. That type of exposure, one of the biggest things is that it causes oxidative stress. And so antioxidants help, deal with that oxidative stress. We're also exposed to a lot of things like heavy metals in our water, in our food, in our air, all over the place we're getting exposed to these. And there are certain foods that can actually help offset absorption of these heavy metals. So, getting a nicer mineral profile in our diets can help. So there were a lot of studies that showed that people who had more calcium and magnesium and zinc in their diets absorbed less toxic heavy metals when exposed to them, for example. Wow. And dealing with the damage of those toxic heavy metals, antioxidants, again, can help offset that damage.
Mm. So eat your chocolate, everybody. Get that magnesium in, honey.
Right.
Okay, cool. And then where do you fall on, just because it's like, I feel like everyone talks about it, everyone does it, or they don't do it or whatever. Where are you on like cleansing?
Cleansing. Oh, like douches and things like that?
No, not necessarily douches, like juice cleansing or maybe douches. That too. I mean, anything.
Okay. I thought you meant cleansing for, preparing for
actual sex.
Act. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, you know what? That's the second question. Let's go.
Okay. So cleanses. Yeah, there are a lot of ways to cleanse your body. And I think there are some really good, healthy ways. There are some that are not so healthy that are out there. But one of them is fasting. And I talked about fasting in the book.
Oh, nice.
Lots of research on that showing that, very moderate fasting. You don't want to go anything extreme because it can actually cause more hormonal disruption than you're helping. But, just doing a kind of mini fast once a week can be really good to, nice. And I talk about the research to support the benefits of that in the book as well. It can have sexual benefits, but then you just get global health benefits. Oh, and I forgot to mention, besides all the sciencey stuff in the book, there are some tips for pleasing our partner. I have a chapter on, what we were talking about, kindness in the bedroom, bringing that to the table, as well as specific tips for pleasing our partner and focusing on oral sex.
Yes, go off. Okay, great. And then, since we brought it up, do we have any information on cleansing the body in the other way? Is that like a thing that we should be doing, or is that a thing to avoid?
I think any harsh cleansers are definitely not advisable. Women have gotten the brunt of this over the years. I just wrote an article on women's history in sex, and I found online these ads marketing Lysol to women. And they were so brutal. They were so brutal. They would show this picture of this guy with it. These are from actual ads from the 50s. This guy with his suitcase and this woman with this baby in her arms, and he's leaving. And it says she was a good wife, but she had one neglect, and it was feminine hygiene. And so,
oh my God. We love the 50s and we want to burn it. like the image, like the clothes were fantastic, but everything else, burn it.
Right.
So bad. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. So, I did talk about that a little bit in the book. The fact that there's been this, women have gotten a bad rap as having an odor, and of course everybody has the genitals, male and female, they have a biological odor. Obviously we can cleanse ourselves, soap and water, something simple. But either way, they have a biological aroma. That's just how it is. And you can develop an appreciation for that in the same way that you develop an appreciation for a fine wine or other things that you might not have liked the first time. You can, you develop positive feelings associated with that. And then, you grow to like it. So yeah, I think that we kind of have to get over our inhibitions with that a little bit, because quite honestly, in my opinion, anyone who calls himself a good lover should know how to perform oral sex. Male or female. I just feel like it's a fundamental.
Totally agree. Okay, great. Well, we're already like almost at the time. Is there anything else that you feel like you want to leave us with? Anything else that you feel like you want us all to know about your book, about you, or about your teachings?
I would just say, general principle, stay close to nature, and that's your best bet if you're in doubt. For great sex, for great health, for relationships, trying to be kind and stay close to nature.
Beautiful. Where can we get your book?
Amazon, it's Diet for Great Sex, and my name is Christine DeLozier.
Beautiful. And then can we connect to you online or on your website or anything like that?
Yeah, my website is dietforgreatsex.com, and I'm also on social media.
Beautiful. All right, Christine, thank you so much for being on the show. You are a gem. I think you gave us some really great tools.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, of course. Mwah.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for carving out the time to listen to this wisdom, to listen to all this goodness. Once again, gentle reminder to please check out savagelosangeles.com to learn more about my new company that I'm so proud of. I hope it inspires you to create and cultivate a life that you dig. And also, if you are down and have, 10 seconds, then please give this podcast a 5-star review on iTunes. Super easy. Just give it 5 stars, maybe say a few kind words. And if you dug it, please share it with your friends. I would be over the moon with gratitude. All right. You guys are the bee's knees. Much love. Stay savage.